Hey friends, Cookie here, Hummingbird Heights Farm. Today I'm in the kitchen and I'm going to make a sourdough bread recipe that doesn't take a lot of time. One of my neighbors had this recipe and she showed me this gorgeous loaf of bread, but it's made with her sourdough starter. And so my husband likes the sour taste, but he doesn't like the crisp crust when he makes sandwiches. So this saves time because it's made with regular yeast. And that is my shortcut. So we only have one rise, well, one basic rise, the bulk rise, and then you cut it down into the size you want, and then you let it rise in the pan and you bake it. So here's how we're going to go. It's 1.5 tablespoons, and I use this Tbs Instant Yeast. Okay, so I am going to add this to, I put a 1/4 cup of warm water in this little bit larger bowl because I need room for this stuff to grow. So here's my 1 tablespoon. And I don't have a half a tablespoon, so I'm going to basically, I think that looks like a half. 1.5 tablespoons. The missing sugar. There we go. So the other magic ingredient in this is a pinch of sugar. Now yeast will grow if it has food, and yeast, it's the quickest thing to get that growing. Flour will get it growing, but sugar will get it like supercharged. So let's see what happens. Usually a little rubber scraper helps get that a little bit dissolved. Actually, my little dough, my magic dough mixer, or a wire whisk. This one is actually meant for mixing dough. So I am going, oops, don't drop it. All right, this helps with mixing dough with red flour and water. Next ingredients is 1 cup of warm milk. So I've got 1 cup of warm milk. I'm going to mix these in here. You can mix them, go ahead in your, but I'm going to go ahead and mix it in my larger cup so you can see what's going on. Since it's clear. 1 cup of milk. Okay, I have this a little bit out of order. The 1.5 cups of sourdough starter. I have 2 jars of sourdough starter going because I like to have a more shallow cup for it to rise, and one of these will get me started. I just keep 1 jar in the refrigerator if I'm not using it all, but it's got a lot of bubbles today. It means it's very happy. All right, so these were started here last night and they rose up to here, so they're active. I've been feeding them for 3 days. They got some nice bubbles and those are happy. So this is going to go in. Hoping you can see everything. This whole process should only take maybe 2.5 to 3 hours. That includes baking off time. So to me, I can do that. Sourdough has been taking me a very long time. So I'm going to mix this. The other items I'm adding in, 2 tablespoons of butter. And that's about 1/4 stick. Now that's room temperature softened butter. 1 1 egg, room temperature. I'm going to go ahead and crack this in here and fork it around a little bit so that it will blend more easily or not separating. All right, that's going to go in there. Now your room temperature butter or margarine in my case is going to get all mixed. 2 teaspoons kosher salt. I have my Himalayan salt, which will work just as well. Tablespoons or teaspoons? Up, 2 teaspoons. Always good to check. That's my 1 teaspoon. I would have had a salty mess. All right, there's my salt and 2 tablespoons of sugar. There's where my tablespoons come in. 2 tablespoons out of my little sugar guy. Now this could all go into the mixing bowl. I have the dough hook, but you can also kind of control how this is blending since there's a lot of lumpiness. It'll all go in there. I'm going to move it there anyway. But I wanted to show you, these are basically your liquid ingredients, other than the yeast will not go in just yet. So we're mixing the liquids, and then we will add the dry. Well, actually you have some dry in here, but you notice they always tell you to put the dry ingredients in separately and all the wet ingredients. Well, sugar and salt dissolve in the wet ingredients. To me, it just makes sense that you get them dissolved, because otherwise they're floating around in the flour, and I'd rather make sure that they're all going in. Okay, so these are going to go in. That mixed it really pretty good. This is going in, and then we're going to mix this a little bit and add flour. Okay, so we are going to mix this. See, with the dough hook, it really is kind of pointless because it really isn't, it's just going around. So when you're doing a paddle, it might make more sense. Okay, so now we're going to measure the flour. One thing about measuring flour is that when you do it, you don't scoop your cup in. You take something and you scoop it, and you kind of gently let it get into there. You lightly place it in there. So that gives a little more space. You gotta have a little airspace. If you compact your flour, your measurement will be off. So we're going to do 3 cups of flour in with our mix. There's 1. Gently loosen up my flour. Going to level it off. And that's 2. 1 more. We're going to have 4 to 4.5 cups of flour total. But in order to start with the dry and the wet ingredients, we start with just 3 cups, and that should get all the liquid incorporated well. So we start off with the 3 cups. And I usually start on 2. This is fairly low. And I'm going to have to be scraping as I go. In the meantime, I'm going to measure 1 more cup of flour. I know it's going to take at least 1 more cup. You can do this over a bowl to catch any of the leftovers. I've got my flour in 2-gallon Ziploc bags right now. I'll have that ready. This is what the dough is looking like right now. I'm going to scrape it to get that off the sides. So when I scrape, I always turn the mixer off, safety first. And I scoot all the way under the center to make sure I get all the dry ingredients. Move the paddle around a little more, the dough hook, and get that going. Now, I'm not doing it fast, I'm just getting it to mix. Still see a little bit of flour underneath. And we'll get under that, or it's getting it. This is not a heavy mixing, this is just incorporating. Okay, next we're going to add the yeast. Now this hasn't bloomed as much as I would like it to. Maybe I didn't give it enough time. I got going pretty quick here today. But it'll still work. It's still activated. It is very bubbly, but I have seen it on warmer days. My kitchen might be a little cool, where it's come all the way to the top. So today it's just not quite there yet, but it will work. Now we're going to incorporate these liquid ingredients. So first I was getting the flour from the sides, now I'm getting the liquid from the sides. Scooting it all the way under the dough, and that should get it going. All right. Back on 2, nice low speed. Now I have it on 4. It's still very wet and sticky for a dough. So I'm going to add in my 4th cup on low and start sprinkling it around the edge. I'm going to measure another half a cup, generally about what it takes for the rest. And generally about 4.5 cups. But I will barely add that in a little at a time until I see how much thicker it is. So that's on standby. Back to turning, getting the dry ingredients mixed. Starting to come together. Starting to pull the sides of the bowl. That's what you want. Notice it's still sticky on the bottom. It's a sticky ball. So I'm going to start adding a little bit of flour from my 1/4 cup and just keep an eyeball on it. Notice it gets a little messy. how much it works in. So right now I've put in about 1/4 of a cup, so 4 1/4 cups at this point. That may be all it needs. Don't want it to get too stiff. Definitely cleaning the bowl. Okay. I'm going to turn it up and let it mix for a few more minutes. It's already been mixing maybe a minute. Okay, it's been like 3 more minutes. And, oh yeah, the difference with that is, well, it will come off of your fingers very easily. If you're just pinching it in there, the bowl, it's not going to stick to you. If I just touch it, there's nothing. So it's actually feeling a little bit warm, which is good. That means it's helping to develop some of the gluten, which is what we want. So nice having my drawer for baked goods right there. Baking ingredients. Baking utensils. Okay. While you're away, I got rid of all the dishes. So I am going to, since I already got my bowl set up, we're going to get our dough. Look at how nice that came out looking. See how that's just, it's not sticky now, and it is a little bit warm to the touch. Not a lot, but like 3 to 5 minutes of mixing. You can basically just scoot that out of there. Don't be difficult. Come on. Here we go. So then you take your bread dough and you get it in the oil. Then you flip it over so that the top surface is oiled as well. If you can see that. That's all you have to do to this. I'm going to tuck it under a little. Don't even have to do that, but make sure the oil is on the top. That's going to help keep it from sticking to the plastic because we are going to do this. I have my oven on at for rising. I have my stove. My stove has a proof setting, so I've had that on, which is nice. I also am cooking a crock pot of turkey soup since it's right after Thanksgiving. And I'm going to set this in the oven, but even in a warm kitchen like this, it should rise. So it's all nice and tidy into the oven. I set up so the rack is in the center of the oven because when I go to bake it, that's where I want it to be. Check back in a minute. Okay, our dough has risen. Look at that. It's at least doubled. And what we're going to do now is we're going to press it down. Just get a little bit of the air out. We're going to kind of just pull it out of there on a very lightly, maybe too much, lightly floured surface. My rubber scraper. Oh yeah, that's nice. This is going to come right out of there because it was well oiled. Beautiful. Smells. Nothing quite like the smell of fresh yeast. Ugh. Some of my greatest memories of having my own bakery was having that fresh yeast smell when the bread is rising. Just nothing quite like it. All right, I'm going to try and divide this up. Now, because we have 4.5 cups of flour, we probably have about 1.5 cups extra for what a batch of bread would be. So that's about, if I cut this dough into thirds, I would say 2/3 of this will make a loaf of bread. The other third, I will make some dinner rolls. I've made cinnamon rolls in the past, but we're making soup, so I figured I'd make some dinner rolls to go with it. And let's see how much this weighs. So for a loaf of bread, for a 1.5 pound loaf of bread, which is what this will, with it being risen, I've tried just cutting this half. They look like 2 wimpy loaves. I want a nice size loaf of bread. So I'm going to look for about 1.5 pounds. 1.5 pounds is 16 plus 8 is 24. 24 ounces. This is 32. Oh, it's on fluid ounces. That's silly. Change my unit. It changes sometimes. Pounds and ounces. How far am I? Oh, it's at 2 pounds. So I want 1.5 pounds plus about 3 ounces for shrinkage. So let's see. £1 pound, 13 ounces. 1.5 is 1 pound, 8 ounces. 8 and 4 is 12. 13. I could take off a little. 1 pound, 13. Close enough. The rest of this will be dinner rolls to go with my soup. So I'll take care of this in a minute. Right now, I'm going to take my bread dough. This acts like a white bread. It really is a soft dough. It rises easily. It stretches easily, but it has form. Sourdough is sticky and loose and everything. So I'm going to kind of pat it into a rectangle. And this is about the width of my pan. So I'm going to roll it this way and keep it this. So as I roll it, now I don't want too much flour on this because I don't want a cinnamon roll of flour. I'm going to start bringing it together and just pinch it down with my fingertips about every roll or so. Give it a little pinch. That will adhere it so you don't have pockets of air. You don't want that. All right. When you get down to the very last, you're going to pinch that real good all the way to the end. That is going to be your bottom side. Aw, I'm going to have weird looking dough. I should have turned it over. Okay, I got wrinkles. That's okay. It might stretch. This might be a weird one. Who knows? But it'll all taste good. So I'm going to oil my pan just like I did my bowl, so the bread will come out much more easily. And it gets a little bit of a crispness to the crust on the bottom, which is always nice. I'm just going to, since that is wrinkly. I should look to the other side. I could reform it, but I don't want to put it through any more stress. Okay, so notice how it fit there. If you rolled it up the other way, it would be, you would get really big ends. So this way, it will go back into proofing. In the meantime, I will take what's left and turn this into rolls. Now let's see how many. We have 1 pound and 2 ounces, so not bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into, I'm going to chop it into 8s and then 6 and then one more time. So let me see. Let's see how much one of these is. That's like 2 ounces. That's a big dinner roll. You could do that, or you could do little dinner rolls. But a 2 ounce roll. A 1 ounce would be like a cookie size. These are good. We'll go with the big ones. So we'll cut these into 8s. We're going to have nice, generous rolls. And I'm going to keep all the flour out of my way, because what I want this to do is I want this to attach here so it helps form it. So if you kind of pull that together and then you turn it over, and I am going to circle these guys up. Oh, that is a big roll. These will be big dinner rolls. That's okay. I'm going to put these in and let them proof as well. You don't even have to really turn them if you don't want to. They still turn out to be a very nice roll. I could even put these, since there's not as many, I could put them in a smaller pan, like an 8-inch cake pan. Something smaller to where they touch sides and turn into a nice little ring. Now as I do that, I feel the tackiness on there. Notice it just kind of circles around there as you press it. You press it down with the palm of your hand and circle your hand around it. So I'm pushing down and I kind of push in with my thumb until it starts to catch, and then it's pulling it down into a nice little circle there. Pretty cool. One more after this, and we'll put them in to rise. These guys are already rising, and I just rolled that one. Or quality control is off, and that one might be a little small. Maybe, if that's what you think, I'll give him a little boost. The main reason you want to have them all a nice even size each is so they'll bake evenly. If you ever baked cookies where one was smaller, one was bigger, and the small one always burns. So this will get that. I have some water. I think I'm going to put some sesame seeds on these. Now if you wet them, sesame seeds will stick. This one's open. Little pack of sesame seeds. So to kind of get them on there, you take a little pinch and try and get it right on the wet area. You can also take and turn them upside down, but if they're wet like that, they will stick. A little more. Love seeded rolls. Reminds me of the holidays when I had to bake millions and millions of dinner rolls for families. Brings back fond memories. Okay, these guys are going in too. Oh, that's a big pan. No, I'm gonna have to get a smaller pan. All right, we'll be back when these are ready to go in the oven. So give me a minute. Okay, friends. Well, I'm not going to get a chance to bake these off on this video. I'll have to do it when I come back. I have an engagement. It's 5:15. This is not going to rise in time, so I'm going to put this off. But just so you know, I will give you the instructions and you will be able to see it. I'll attach pictures of the finished products. But this loaf of bread, when it gets about so high, when it's about an inch over, it will be ready. So it'll be mounded. Once it reaches the top edge and it's up a little ways, it'll be ready to bake. So once it's proofed. The rolls, I didn't have an 8-inch round pan, but this is generally how you would get them close enough to each other where they're already starting to touch, and then they're like a pull-apart roll. So you can either do them separately or you can do them together. These will probably only take 15 minutes. This will take 20 to 25 minutes. And I have a thermometer that is for baking. I can find it. Okay, it's not right where I want it. This is not it, but this is a meat thermometer. This would work, but I have a little short one for baking, and I'm not sure what drawer it's in. I'll look for it. But once, and if you're looking at a meat thermometer, it usually only goes up to 180 for the top meat. But what you can do is it needs to be a little over that. It should be 195 to 200. So this other thermometer works well for that. So I'll see if I can include a link to that at the end. But I'm going to have to let you go. I have to get to my gathering because it's 5:15 and I will have to be there at 6. This will not bake in time. It needs 30 minutes or more to rise and then another 30 minutes in the oven, so I will be late. So the way I will have the recipe. I've got this typed out step by step as I put it together, and I will post that for you. And I hope that works for you. So I'm going to have to not have this. I will try and put some finished pictures at the end of the video. All right. I will talk to you later. I will see you at the next video. And thank you for hanging out. And I hope this helps. Take care.